Hey guys, welcome back to Previa podcast. We have got, it's summer. We know this. We've asked questions. Yes. What do y'all want to hear? We have Jenny with us because, let's add
It's a party. It's a Previa party.
It's Hey Whitney Summer Edition. That's right. All right, Whitney, you're on the hot seat. You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. Hey Whitney. Finding myself struggling with overstimulation. Okay, that's all of us. The hot, constant noise. It seems, and my kids being home, off routine, it's getting to me. Did they watch me at swim practice the other day?
They did.
Did they see me, sweating and, wondering if I was screaming? There was no, I could jump in the pool to ground Whitney, but that wouldn't have worked out well. So help me out.
Okay.
Help us all out.
So part of it is to realize you're not alone.
Okay.
This is your kids being home and being out of routine is going to lead to sensory overload. It just is. And regardless of however old your kids are, I am a big advocate of they have to have a rest time. In their rooms doing something quiet. Mm-hmm. They can be playing. They can be reading. If you want to give them an hour of screen time on a tablet, so be it.
We all do it.
But we all need a chance to kind of decompress, have that quiet time. You need that time for yourself. So, big advocate of make sure you're still incorporating some type of a quiet or a rest time. Try not to forget about your tactile grounding. So, whether that means that you're, getting the wet washcloth or paper towel or, something cold, put it on the back of your neck, put it on your face if you need to. Go outside with your kids. Let them, number one, burn off some of that energy that is never ending. But then you're out there barefoot, putting your feet on the grass, all that kind of stuff. Do something that is smell. So candles, lotion, soap, whatever it is. Don't forget your tactile grounding skills. And while you're doing that, try to implement your deep breathing.
Yeah. I think what happens to me a lot is loading the kids.
Yeah.
I don't feel it's talked about enough. And it's hot. We're in Alabama. It's hot.
Yeah.
And especially if you're out somewhere and you're loading them and you're sweating, they're hot, you're doing the car seat battle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you get into the front seat. It's like a 2-second vacation when you shut the doors of your kids for a second.
And they're yelling and you're like,
and it's that's just that's me standing in the parking lot for 1 second, and then you gotta whoop, and then you get back in.
Yes.
That is a hard. I struggle with that.
Yeah,
a lot sometimes, and then because they're I'm hot, I'm mommy's hot.
It's Alabama, everybody hot.
Everybody's suffocating.
Yeah.
So what should I do better in that moment?
Well, remind yourself, especially with baby James.
Will comes at you too sometimes. Will be more my mental terrorist assaulter. He'll just come at me and be like, "Mommy, you did that wrong," or "You should have done that." And I'm like, "Mommy, you forgot. Mommy, use your kind words." Or, "Mommy, why are you making that face?"
Yeah.
I'm like,
I need a moment, sir.
Charlie always reminds me, "Mom, you forgot to take your 3 deep breaths." Because that's what we tell him before you react. Take some deep breaths. And he's like, "I think you forgot your deep breaths."
You're just like, "Mommy forgot."
You're right. Let's take them together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So remind yourself, at least with baby J, the car seat battle's probably long from over.
Yeah.
So try to mentally prep before you get there. But once you're in the car, if you still need that time to kind of cool off, open the windows.
Yeah.
Tactile grounding.
Let that air blow.
Let the air in, the sound. Sometimes the sound of the windows opening drowns out the kids. Multi-purpose here.
Yeah.
What about ring pops? Is that tactile? Because we've been buying them in bulk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone gets one. It keeps their mouth closed for a minute.
Well, sour candy, too.
Yes.
It's kind of a shock to your central nervous system.
Yes. Look at you, Big Brown, and you don't even know it.
There we go. That's why our road trips have been better. We've all had our
ring pops.
Yes.
Ring pops are the secret to it.
That's right. Jenny has unlocked the
Jenny's let us know this.
In bulk on Amazon.
Yes.
If Ring Pops would like to sponsor the podcast, let us know.
Hey, we're good with it.
Okay. So you're not alone. We're all having those moments. And I will say I'm worse when I'm hurrying out the door. So that's a Sarah thing.
That's an Enneagram 1 type A where we don't like to be late.
I don't like to be late. And then I do this thing with nap time. I don't know if y'all do this, where I try to use the most I can of my nap time in that last like 2 or 3 minutes or whatever I know. And then I feel like I could just be Tasmanian devil and get it all done.
Yeah.
It's like a challenge I put on myself, but I make myself worse.
Yeah.
So I need to personally work on that. That's self-admitting, but is that a thing? Are you going to tell me something about myself?
Yes.
Okay, tell me. Okay.
That's kind of an ADHD thing.
Yeah.
Where people with ADHD work great under pressure.
Yeah.
And so they will put something off or procrastinate it until the last minute and then boom, they thrive under that pressure.
I can tell by her look when
she's
like,
do you want me to say
the
something?
therapist is like, and I'm like, what is it? Tell me, why do I do this? It always takes a minute for me to process it. We'll talk about this later.
Yeah. You're like, to be continued.
Good to know. Okay.
Yep.
Hey, Whitney. My son just turned 1. Our birth was traumatic, to say the least. I found myself feeling off around his birthday. Is this a thing?
Well, of course it is. It's a trauma trigger because, obviously your life and your baby's life was at stake.
Yeah.
Potentially he had a NICU stay. We can say that. And so when his birthday rolls around, you're reminded of that trauma. You might even have kind of some flashbacks
100%.
Back to the, labor and delivery room, back to the OR, back to the NICU. All of those things are going to be kind of running through your head. And if there was a NICU stay, or if, say you were on magnesium and so you were kind of out of it for a little while and unable to hold him, you're grieving what you lost.
Yeah.
Because you may not have gotten that golden hour of skin to skin. And so you're grieving that. And so it's very appropriate that you feel like his birthday is almost harder than it is celebratory.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
it's the anniversary of your trauma.
Yeah, exactly.
You've been Jenny's walked that road. I've walked that road. Still to this day, I get weird around, honestly, both boys' birthdays. Yeah. And now my family's kind of recognized it.
Yeah.
I recognize it. And it just was not, it was not a happy day for me. And I'll be real, driving past the hospital sometimes, I'm just like, I don't want to see it.
Right.
So the birthday, and I think you sometimes overcompensate, or I did for the first birthday for Will, I did this grand party to try to not think about it. And then post-party, I was like, wow. Okay, that I still am really not okay. Yeah, like the balloons didn't make it better.
Exactly, the cake.
I thought it did. Right? I put an elephant on the cake. Why wouldn't that solve my problem?
Exactly.
But no one ever said to me, if you had a traumatic birth, Sarah, the birthdays would be hard. So if this mom, if you're hearing that for the first time, you're validated. I would suggest therapy.
Yes.
Something that a therapist told me, and we have the therapist in the room that can speak to this, but just on that day, start the day and give yourself 5-10 minutes, however long you need, to dwell on what happened, to really think about it. Because if not, you're going to keep having those flashbacks all day. So allow yourself to sit with that discomfort, think about the things, give yourself grace, sit with it for a minute, and then okay, I have honored my feelings. I have sat with it. I have not dealt with it per se, but I have made space for it.
Yeah.
And then it just helped me to okay, I can go and enjoy the good parts of this day now.
Exactly.
I love that.
So that was helpful for me. I was like, I love that I don't have to keep trying to push it away. I can just sit with it for
You're allowed to feel
this
your
time,
feels.
and then
you needed that permission, and it's just like if you just don't feel like you have that permission.
That's right.
So I love that. I'm actually going to start doing that because I sometimes I find myself being like I wanted to talk about it to someone, but then I was like, maybe they're tired of hearing it.
Well, this could be a good time setting a timer and voice journaling that.
Yes. Yeah. So I think really too, especially, the aftermath of trauma, trauma is tricky. Trauma is like grief.
Yeah.
It pops up. So
it's very sneaky.
It's very sneaky. So to this mom, it's very validated. Unfortunately, it's a normal experience.
Yeah.
And, too, sometimes I like to travel around the birthday, just even a small little trip. It kind of gives me something out of the location because we live where the traumas happened.
Yeah.
To me, that's one thing. So find your ways, like we said before in different episodes, you're going to find your core huddle people that you can share it with.
We literally just talked about grief and joy can coexist. So
Coexist.
It doesn't have to be all bad or all good.
No.
You can feel conflicting emotions.
Totally. Oh, okay. I like these. Family stuff, Whitney. Here we go.
Let's do it, Aunt Brenda.
Hey, Whitney. We have several large family gatherings, vacations coming up. It's summer. Everybody's trying to see everybody. School's out.
Yep.
I am not ready for the questions about us getting pregnant. We've had several miscarriages and currently do IVF. I just hate the pressure.
Okay, for starters, if we have just any, let's say, support people listening to this, for the love of God, don't ask people when they're going to have a baby.
Or when the next one is.
Exactly.
Or are you like...
I'm surprised you haven't had another one yet.
You're not
'cause
getting
y'all
any
know we heard
younger.
All the things.
Somebody asked me when the third one was when I was leaving the hospital with baby James. I am not even kidding. When are you going to do for the third? I'm like, okay, well, I guess when you get the uterus that was taken out of my body back in.
It's like, ma'am, go get the biohazard bag.
And she's looked at me. I'm like, that is inappropriate.
Yeah. Recently, I had COVID and I had sent a picture of the COVID test to my friends. And they were like, you're pregnant. And I was like, did you forget my tubes are in a biohazard bag and probably like gone at this point because it's been nearly 3 years?
I mean,
no.
It's wild.
I'm like, no, I caught the plague, not a pregnancy.
Well, I tell you, I remember this happening. Conversations about when you get pregnant. When we were engaged, I remember as soon as we were married, literally questions. And then when I had the miscarriage, everybody just thought, a lot of people didn't know we had the first miscarriage. Okay. When are you trying? When you're trying? Oh my gosh. Yeah. I would cry almost every single time. And then in the South, a lot.
People feel very entitled to that information.
And they just keep asking. And I get this. I remember post miscarriage not going to a holiday because I couldn't stand to ask the question. I could not have. And I did not go. And I said, I cannot do this.
Yeah.
So I feel for this mom. And
for her, a lot of times it comes from maybe an innocent place.
It does.
People don't realize how hurtful it can be. They're not trying to be malicious. Like, I can remember the dental hygienist asked me, don't you want more? Are you going to have more? As I'm like actively miscarrying. And I'm just like, it took everything not to just bawl while I'm getting my teeth cleaned. So I totally just feel for this mom.
And so for this mom, for ways to cope with it.
Yeah.
If it's one of those you're able to get away, please do that. Even if that means like, oh, I got to go run to the store, and you drive and you take that time for yourself to emotionally decompress. Do that. Some really good advice is, if it's your side of the family, have that conversation with them. If it's your significant other, they need to have that conversation with their family.
I get the sense from this, it might be his family, but I could wrong. I'm just like painting this picture of this.
And so, if it's one of those, depending on how strong the relationship is, to have that conversation of, hey, we're going through IVF. We've experienced miscarriages. Please no one ask us about this. This is not a good topic for us to have. If or when we get pregnant, we will tell you when we are ready.
In our time.
But please do not ask us. And so setting up those boundaries even before you get there can be helpful, and it can protect you. And then also knowing that you can get your out when you need your out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to go get a drink. Oh, I need to go use the restroom.
Yeah.
I mean, I was also sassy at times, and just like, well, when I could, when are you going to have the baby? Well, when God gives me the baby, or like.
It's appropriate to just say, like, I'm just not comfortable having a
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely.
And, I was just like, if you're going to ask me such an invasive question, if I offend you, maybe you should be looking why you're asking me an invasive question here.
Exactly.
Like, it was a hard time. And still, people ask me, and I'm just like, we're done. And then people, if you say you're done for whatever reason, you're done, they feel like you got to say, oh, don't you want, like, don't you want the girl?
Yeah.
And part of me goes, well, I had the girl, but I lost the girl.
Yeah.
And the other part of me is just like, I'm very happy with the boys. And depending on my mood and day, that's the response you're going to get. But it's like, when you're asking, you don't know how many children we have lost.
Exactly.
Right? And you're never going to know that. So
or the lengths that we went to get the children that we have.
Yes.
And that at some point, like for me personally, I was like, I'm going to quit rolling the dice.
Yeah.
I'm quitting while I'm ahead.
Yeah. And we could try. There's women out there who try to get pregnant. Yeah. And it does not happen that way for them. So I think hopefully we're getting better in society. And the more you can just say,
I think the awareness is getting better.
I'm not comfortable. You change the subject. You had the uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak about this before it happens.
Yeah.
That's our advice. But just know it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
And
We've walked that road.
We've walked that road. And
it's hard.
It's hard. And, somebody always needs to get ice at parties. Someone always needs to go get grandma a new drink. Take those out.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
And, I always like, too, before situations where I feel like I'm going to be pressured, I like power walk. I do my workout.
Yeah.
I like get my good headspace.
Yeah.
Like fill your cup a little bit more that day and give yourself grace.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Changing topics. Hey, Whitney, I see everyone taking these awesome trips or mom's planning these perfect crafts, and honestly, it makes me feel like crap.
I'm right there with you.
I know social media is made for this, but am I the only one who's feeling like it?
No, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I am not a Pinterest crafty mom.
Yeah.
I would love to be. I am not. I have tried and failed.
Yeah.
So, no, you are not alone at all. And you're correct. Social media is designed for us to fall into the comparison trap.
Yep.
It really is. And so with that, maybe you need to take a break from social media.
Yeah.
Or put a
highlight reel.
Exactly. It is. It is a highlight reel. People put their happy times on there.
Or maybe they're not happy. They're just supposed to look happy.
Exactly.
my gosh.
2 seconds of happy for the picture.
This is so bad. I'll say this for a second. There, sometimes in these posts, when people put these extreme declarations of their happiness are perfect, I'm like, oh, you're just telling me how bad it really is in life.
Or like we were talking about the moms who say they do it all. And like looking at your 5 children and you're like making homemade butter that you're churning and you say you have no help. I don't believe you. I'm sorry. I'm not buying it.
I'm thinking there's a sister wife there that I would consider.
Exactly.
I would consider at some days. Let's talk
She
about
cook
it.
and clean.
As long as she didn't love Bill, I'd be fine. And he
There
didn't
you
love
go.
her.
Exactly.
Like, just give me like a good helper. But
Exactly.
I think, so listen, everybody, you don't know too. I had to reframe this. She's taking a trip. You don't know how long that mom has been saving for that trip. You don't know how that trip's happened. You don't know the effort she's done.
Right.
You don't know if her kid was a terror that night before. She's had the worst trip of her life, but she's just like, I did this trip. Let's just post it.
Exactly.
And, every mom's got their own specialty
Yeah.
of life. We all do it, excellent job a different way.
Exactly.
So you're not the only one who, and sometimes summer's hard because our kids are home.
Yeah.
And like we're trying our best to keep them active and engaged.
Yes.
And
It's
that looks like
hard.
different for everybody. But take that guilt off. And like I relate this. When I was trying to get pregnant, I couldn't be on social media because I thought everybody was pregnant.
Yeah.
So sometimes if you're just struggling with like your confidence and your comparison is really speaking to you, don't look at it.
Yeah. Might be a time for a break from social media, or at least to put like the screen time limit on there.
Yeah.
So maybe like 10 or 15 minutes a day.
Because it's a lot easier to look out and say everybody else is doing better.
The grass is greener on the other side.
But it's like if you sit with your own, that's where it's at.
Yeah.
But I did it too. I remember if Will was little, I'd be like, she's taking this kid here. She's doing this to the library. Look at her. She's done that. I haven't showered today. How is she doing this? She has 5 kids. She's driving back for Target. And I'm like, I
hate to say it, sometimes kids start to raise the younger kids.
Yeah.
They do
Depending on
entertain each
ages.
other pretty well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but I did it. So
I know, I get it.
I think we all do it. But just know that we're all living this life together.
That's
and
right.
Literally, I relate to our reels we all post on Instagram.
Yeah. Nobody has it all together.
Oh, come on. If you would have looked on the opposite side of what I'm showing, y'all see a whole different version. And that's a snapshot of our day.
Oh, yeah.
2 seconds. And honestly, it's probably pre-recorded in a quiet time when our children are napping.
Yeah.
Okay. So do not feel this way. You're not alone. And let's take a little social media break to this moment.
Yes, I would.
All right. Last question. Hey, Whitney. I love these summer questions because they're just like our life here. We just came back from the recent trip, and I feel like all my husband and I did was fight or break up fights with our kids. Let's talk this out so I don't feel like I'm the only one.
I'd say this is par for the course.
Yeah.
Let's normalize this.
Yeah.
Because especially if you have younger kids, so like I've said before, I have a 2.5, almost 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. And the 2-year-old thinks that everything is hers. And God forbid her sister actually pick up one of her own toys because then the 2-year-old wants it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this constant battle of, note that it's hers. She had it first. You don't just take things from other people.
Right.
We have to share. If you can't share, I'm putting the toy away. We are referees all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time, especially when they are in that younger, like toddler to elementary school age. We're constantly going to be refereeing.
Yeah.
And then we're already kind of flustered and frazzled from that.
So y'all do one thing off to each other, then it's just like,
So then,
let's go.
you know, my husband might, I don't know, like tie his shoe wrong and it just grates my nerves. And then I, you know, get upset over that.
uh-huh.
And so it's like one thing starts another. It's a domino effect.
Yeah.
And so you're not alone in this. I would tell you, as far as like trips and stuff like that, anticipate cranky.
Yeah. And
Anticipate
expectations
the
need to be low.
Oh, yes.
For
Below
yourself,
the ground
your
low.
kids, your spouse, different environments, different
Yes.
sensories. You know, even it goes back to like the toddlers, right? They're all trying to kill themselves. So
Yeah.
we have safety guards in our homes,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Like in our day-to-day life, we know where the stairs are.
Oh, yeah.
We know where the scissors are. We put this away.
Yeah.
They have their cribs or they have their bed rails, right?
Yes.
We go to a foreign environment.
Mm-hmm.
We've lost that control of just normal
Mhm.
Oh,
safety.
yeah.
So like you could, you know, cook for 2 seconds without your kid killing himself.
Yeah.
Now that's removed.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's harder.
And
Yes.
honestly, you know, our kids, they're going to struggle being in a new environment
Uh-huh.
because it's new, it's exciting. And so they're going to be a little bit more hyper with that. And here we are thinking, dear God, I'm exhausted. How do you have more energy kind
Yeah.
of thing?
Mhm.
So we're dealing with polar opposites in that aspect too.
And it's a mental load getting ready for trips.
It is. It's a lot.
So you're already coming into it. Like I always tell people, like when you give birth, you're at a deficit, right? Because you've probably not been sleeping well when your last
Yeah.
weeks of pregnancy, and like you're
Yeah.
trying to get everything together, and then you have this baby. Same thing with trips.
Mhm.
Like we're planning, we're running around.
Yeah.
You know, why does mom always run back out of the car? Because we're like we forget we're the only part we got to grab
Yeah,
it.
we got to get all the things.
So you're bringing that into a trip,
Yeah.
and then say you have family involved,
Mm-hmm.
you have friends who are like go on
Yeah.
vacation together. People parent different. People do things different.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But definitely you and your spouse got to realize a vacation with your children is not a vacation.
No.
It's a trip and you're parenting in a different location.
Oh, 1,000% yes.
So Whitney, it was so funny. We all went on vacation at the same time.
Yes.
Whitney had a true vacation.
Yes.
Okay. Me and Jenny took our children.
Yes.
So we parented in a different
You
location.
did, yes.
So did you have mom guilt though when you were away?
Oh,
The
yes.
mom guilt.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. You
Yeah.
want to talk about like tears on the plane?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Because it was for a long time.
Yeah.
And then it got extended because I got COVID while we were
Mhm.
out there. So then my parents ended up having to keep my kids for a few more days until I was negative.
So then you have mom guilt because you have COVID.
Because then you in your
Yes.
head are like, if I
It's
wouldn't have went
outrageous.
away.
Then we got home and I was like, we're home.
Right.
And my kids are like,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I wanted nothing more than to have my kids back.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Now we're all united and, you know, we're back in the routine.
And it's great, but
Yeah,
vacations are hard. So just,
they are.
you know, again, highlight reel. People are going to show. I showed
Yeah.
the highlight reels. I didn't show
Yeah.
y'all the bad stuff on my
Yes.
Instagram stories when we were melting down. I told Jenny he was on vacation doing living the same life. Jenny, we're not surviving today.
Well,
you know?
the people that were in my like green circle, my close friends on my
Uh-huh.
Instagram story, they knew I had caught COVID. And I
Yeah.
was like, go on vacation, get COVID. It's great.
So, I mean, I think it's just expectations.
Mhm.
And as your kids get older, it's going to get a different vibe.
Yes.
But the trenches right now, set them low.
Yep.
So we listened to Us. Have you seen this book? It's written by a therapist.
Mm-mm.
No.
We listened to that on Audible on our way to the beach and on the way back because it's really long and we didn't listen to it the whole time. But
Yeah.
I feel like that was good just to check in,
Okay.
to be like, okay,
Yeah.
is everything coming out of my mouth respectful? It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
you know, I don't have to be happy with you all the time, but
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
do, words leave my mouth need to be respectful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether I'm talking about someone or to someone.
Yeah.
That was just something he said in the book. And so
Yeah.
it's things
Yeah.
like that was very helpful. I feel like in our
Yeah.
trip that
I
I was
like
like,
it.
that was convicting. Like that was fresh on our minds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe find a good podcast or a good book while
Absolutely.
you're traveling.
And that's a safe
Yeah.
space, right? Like you can listen to someone, third party, saying
yeah.
it.
Like
And-
nudge.
I mean, I was going to say, did you just like across and just be like,
Yeah.
did you
Or
hear
give
that?
the eyes like,
Yeah.
are you listening?
Yeah,
Listen?
That was written for you.
communication.
Yeah.
You know, I always do that sometimes in church. I'm just like, Oh, did you
I know.
hear
I heard a
that?
pastor one time that's like, you have to listen to sermons for yourself. You cannot be thinking like this was written for you.
You know, you're hitting up, but I think that's the thing. You know, a good check-in before a trip.
Oh, absolutely.
And going to the trip.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I always say, you know, with kids, if you can take, like, I know my parents went with us, so we got a date night or two in there. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Check in. You can put the kids down. You can order takeout.
Yeah.
You can have their baby monitor. You can sit on the balcony.
Mm-hmm.
Have
Yeah.
yourself a little wine and a meal.
Something.
Check out.
Yeah.
And just do that check-in. I'm
Yeah.
sorry you lost my temper with you when, you know, the swim diaper, they had a situation in the floaties and we were all hot. Sand was in all
Poop in the
places.
tub situation again.
It was similar, but not as triggering.
Okay.
And, you know, it's amazing too on trips what you can find the other person doing wrong.
Right.
It's amazing. Like
We have a heightened sensitivity or radar for
Well,
it.
and that's what Matthew pointed out graciously. That he's like, just because I do something differently than you would do it,
Mhm.
it doesn't necessarily make it wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's true. It really
Yeah.
is.
It is.
It's true.
But it's hard when you're used to doing all the things. You're like,
Uh-huh.
that's not the way we do it.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
it's not wrong.
We got to relinquish a little bit of that
Yes.
control.
Like you
Yes.
dusted the sand off them wrong. You know, it's like, did
Yes.
they really do
Yeah.
it wrong?
Exactly.
No,
Love it.
but you're looking at it going, why are you
That's not
doing
how
that?
I
Don't do
do
it.
That's
So-
not the most efficient way.
right.
That's
So,
the Enneagram ones over here.
100%. So I think just knowing it's everything's heightened.
Mm-hmm.
It is for us all. But this summer questions, they were so good.
I love it.
Mhm.
I hope you guys, one of these have touched on a topic in your life. Keep sending
Yes.
us more and we'll answer them. Till next
Yep.
time.
See ya.
Maternal mental health is as important as physical health. The Previa Alliance podcast was created for and by moms dealing with postpartum depression and all its variables like anxiety, anger, and even apathy. Hosted by CEO, founder Sarah Parkhurst and licensed clinical social worker Whitney Gay, each episode focuses on specific issues relevant to pregnancy and postpartum. Join us and hear how other moms have overcome mental health challenges, as well as access tips and suggestions on dealing with your own challenges as moms. You can also browse our podcast library and listen to previous episodes at any time. Please know you're not alone on this journey. We're here to help.